Why did you start Boost?
So I think the best sort of businesses are built from, solving problems and not thinking sort of like, hey, I'm going to go create, a multi-million-dollar business. It just sort of happens, right?
Alexander Brewer, the co-founder and CEO of Boost, a platform that powers high-quality, data-rich giveaways by helping creators and brands collect verified emails and audience insights. Unlike traditional giveaways, Boost blocks bots, verifies participants, and turns viral moments into lasting growth through first-party data.
Is there something that motivates you a lot to reach success?
I would feel like it started as like a commitment to myself, or like, hey, I want to do great things. I want to build great products and solve problems and create value in the process. But now it's grown to so much more where, there's people relying on you, there's people looking up, and people who need us, right?
At what point did you start seeing some sort of success? Was there like a big catalyst at any of these like big peaks that was like, okay, like things are starting to change now?
I'd say
Alex, man, thank you for coming on. How are you doing?
Thanks for having me, brother. Feeling very good. It's towards the end of my time here in Dubai at Token 2049. I'll be back very soon, but had a great week, man. Very productive, lots of great sessions, and more than excited to sort of round it off with you here.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you, man. It's been a long week, so I'm glad we're having more of a chill time, sitting down, having conversations like this. How are some of the events you guys hosted?
Dude, fantastic. When you host an event, you're able to just invite and curate an amazing guest list. And I know you attended our event, co-hosted with a bunch of great people. And, we did this one together with Midnight Club, and it was fantastic. Like, these guys know all the right people. And I mean, we had, listing managers, VCs, we had everyone there. And it's very powerful to, have people all in the same room and actually connect with them face to face. And all of a sudden, you're not just, a username anymore. All of a sudden, you're a person and you're connecting, and you can actually get some great work done, even at these events, which I know some people are sometimes skeptical of, like, oh, you're just here to have a good time. But when you're actually able to meet someone in person and create that sort of tangible relationship, dude, it's very powerful.
When you have a good time is when the best relationships are built.
Exactly. And, we've been able to spend time with some very powerful people here, which hopefully are going to come in, very useful in terms of relationships, and also just being able to help people, like we meet people and then they're like, hey, we need engagement here, or we need something here in Web3 or in Web2. Very, very good stuff. Actually, just last night, we also had a sit-down meeting. I don't know if you noticed, but there are a lot of rappers in Dubai. And obviously, we're constantly, scouting for new creators to use our tools and constantly networking and spreading the good word about our Web2 product. And just last night, we had a sit-down with a producer of some of the biggest rappers out there.
Oh, man.
And we've got some very fun activations coming up later this month, so that'll be fun.
That's sick, man. That's awesome. I think we'll dive into it in a little bit, because I think you guys have done some really amazing partnerships. But before we dive into all of that, I want to understand a little bit more about you. Who was Alex before even Web3 came about?
Yeah, man. Well, I've been in crypto since 2017. I was wrapping up college around that time, and I created a Binance account, and a friend of mine told me about, ICOs, and he's like, hey, go on these platforms and find some tokens to buy before they're even out. And I'm like, okay, I'll give that a shot, and had a lot of fun and some success with that. And that really gave me the crypto interest. And from there on in 2021, I got into NFTs early on. Fortunately, a friend of mine told me about the Bored Ape Yacht Club very early on, and I kind of faded that. I was like, come on, man, photos of monkeys, monkey JPEGs, who's going to buy that, right? But hey, it turned out he was right, and I was still able to jump in at some point in 2021. And from there on, dude, the rest is history. I met a bunch of great people in the space, and we connected, and we were like, hey, let's go bring a bunch of value to people with these NFTs, right? And that's when we launched the Ape List, and it just started very organically. It's like a group chat where we're like, this upcoming NFT project is giving whitelist to apes, and we were just sharing value at first. And then we started organizing it and actually approaching projects, saying like, hey, we've got 1,000 Bored Ape holders here. You want them in your community for these reasons, right? And that just grew and grew and grew to the point where we're doing hundreds of collaborations a week. And it's so much value. And I mean, if you were there, what NFTs were like back in that time. You could get a whitelist and it'd be worth 10 Ethereum or
easy money, man.
Yeah.
You guys Because I was running the agency back then still, and you guys would be always one of those communities that was like, and to this day, right? Like it's always top of the list, which is like strong curated, strong founders, strong teams that you always want to like have back in your project. So I think that was a really smart move from you guys.
Appreciate that, man. Yeah, and just building, creating value and building communities and building products is what I love. And I mean, that's what I've been doing over the past 12 years, I would say. And started, when I was much younger, when I was 16, I was going around to local restaurants and selling websites to them, right? Like I've always been in that sort of mindset of being an entrepreneur and, finding problems to solve and creating solutions for them. And that very much comes from, my upbringing, my history, and all that. So when I sort of went through the traditional finance path, I worked as an investment advisor at one of Europe's largest bank for a while. I had a taste of that and was like, oh, this is not really for me. Learned a lot, especially about investing, of course, which was came in very helpful in 2017 when I went into crypto as well. But yeah, I very quickly realized like, hey, this corporate life is not really for me. I love building, I love creating, and I don't mind working long hours. So then when I got into Web3, I just full sent it right away, and that was one of the best decisions I've ever made. I mean, there's just so much energy, so much opportunity in Web3 when it's such a new space, and yeah, there's so many problems to solve. It's crazy.
It's so early, man. I think there's a lot of those gaps that founders with like real products and the mindset that you have can just like come in and fill, and like just you have so much of a market that you can take over. You kind of answered it briefly, but I want to understand like what was your entrepreneurial journey like before crypto as well, right? So you started in 2020 on NFTs, and that's really when it started to like build products and communities. Before that, was there anything that's like outside of the websites or anything that was sort of like even had a little bit of success?
Yeah, for sure. Created a bunch of different products back in the day, and one of them was a platform where local businesses and tourists could connect, and basically a way for you to explore, tourist activities. And I set up a platform for that in Southern Europe, and saw quite a bit of success there, and all the businesses that signed up actually. So it was actually generating revenue, which was also surprising, of course, very early on. And all of the platforms that signed up saw like a 5 to 10x ROI. So yeah, I was very happy with that sort of traction, and that really created even more interest from my end to go find more problems to solve, right? And I was relatively young at that time, but beyond that, dude, so many different businesses. At one point, I had a business with a partner where we were sourcing cars throughout Europe, and then we modified them as well for the client. So it was like a sort of concierge service for cars, but all on the high end, right? So we would take, for example, a Ferrari, just a random 458, for example. We would take it from Germany, have it shipped to Southern Europe, for example, Portugal, where cars are much more expensive. And you could sort of arbitrage that and then import the car, register it, get the plates in the local country. And then where we would make our money is sort of selling the additional modifications. So like the customer would want a exhaust, right? Or maybe a carbon fiber body kit, or have the windows tinted, or have it wrapped. And we would basically take care of all that for the customer. And then, yeah, that's where we would make our margin. So did that for about a year and a half as well. And then quickly realized like, hey, this is not scalable. And it also wasn't very replicable in like other markets, right? Because we were very much relying on the fact that like taxes were very high down south and they weren't up north. So yeah, but learned a lot, dude. And just so many different businesses that I was able to start and try. Which ultimately a lot of them failed, but that's part of the learning process, right?
That's what happens.
Yeah.
I was talking with Leon recently, and there's a study that basically it's like the entrepreneurial flywheel, which is like you find an idea you think is like the best idea in the world, then you jump into it, and then you actually realize the issues that are wrong with it, and then you go through like this valley of despair, which is like, oh, like this is deeper than what I really thought, and then like most people don't actually make it to the end. And I think you've done that really well with like the companies that you've built in Web3. And I want to understand as well, like, why did you start Boost? Like, what was the need in the market that you've seen?
Yeah, so in general, everything. Well, I say I, but we have an amazing team. I have co-founders, so I want to make sure. I'm not saying I here. Everything we've done, I want to say, is very much happened organically. We didn't wake up and sort of said like, hey, we're gonna create an exclusive community for Bored Apes today. We just saw an opportunity. It's like, hey, no one is capitalizing on the fact that we can get Bored Ape holders into these projects and then distribute a ton of value. I mean, the first 3 months or the first 2 months or whatever of operations on Apelist, we distributed over $3 million worth of profit in terms of whitelist. I mean, those were ridiculous numbers. And we were like, hey, no one's actually capitalizing on this, so let's do that. Let's set it up and let's provide all this value. And the same thing with Alphabot, right? We started that because there was a problem. No one was solving it. We tried to pay people to solve it for us, and nobody would want to do it. So we were basically just forced to figure out a solution for ourselves. And we built that, and as it turned out, a bunch of other people were having that problem too. And all of a sudden, we had a very successful business, right? So I think the best sort of businesses are built from, solving problems and not thinking sort of like, hey, I'm going to go create, a multi-million-dollar business. It just sort of happens, right? There's a problem, you identify it, you solve it, and then you figure out the business around that. And yeah, Boost is very much the same thing where, we know what we're good at, which is, the engagement, the platform. We have amazing experience, amazing USPs in terms of, hosting campaigns, in terms of verifying social engagement, and also with our network effects on the platform. And we looked at what these creators in Web 2 are doing, and it's ridiculous, man. Like, they're still doing what we were doing in Web 3 in 2021. They're still hosting campaigns manually, using Google Forms. I mean, you were around for that. You've seen the Google Form giveaways, right? They're terrible. There's no automation. There's no bot protection. No engagement verification, and most of all, there's no transparency. Like, when someone is giving away a bunch of cars on their Instagram, you don't know how they're picking those winners. For all you know, they're going to their friend, right? So that's where we looked at, okay, what they're doing there is far, like, it's suboptimal. And we are in a unique position to jump in with our experience, our technology, and actually solve their problems, right? So yeah, that's again how, we got to Boost, and that's how we got started there.
Yeah, man. I think you guys had the foundation built already. So just having the bridge between the Web 3 to Web 2 was like an amazing move for you guys to like tap into. I wanna dive a little bit deeper because I think this is like something amazing you guys did. But how was the partnership with Assignment?
Oh, dude, fantastic. I mean, mind you, that was the first Web 2 partnership that we did.
Insane.
So that was extremely difficult to get. I mean, for example, like any just new sort of product in Web 2, like if you go get a partnership with one of the biggest YouTuber groups, like it's incredibly difficult, right? No chance. So fortunately, we have a very good team. Fortunately, we have a very good track record, and fortunately, they saw our traction in Web 3, and they're like, oh wow, you guys have that many users, that big of a platform. Like, these guys know what they're doing. So fortunately, they were able to actually trust us there, and it was incredible, bro. Like, such a big event. The exposure we had was incredible, and it was a win-win, right? They got a bunch of engagement. I believe we 15x one of their metrics on their Instagram posts, so really proved that our system works, right? We verified that there's a need for this product, and we onboarded a bunch of users, because that's the most powerful for us. In the process of those users entering the giveaway, they're creating an account on Boost. And of course, we capture a bunch of data, we capture content details, so we can basically keep retargeting them with other giveaways as well. And of course, then they become a Boost user, and they can see all the other giveaways, and well, that of course is very powerful. So the actual collaboration was very good. Working with some of the biggest content groups was incredible, and actually being there at the event as well, and meeting some of the biggest YouTubers in the world, like Speed or Kai Cenat and Mr. Beast, and also their management. Very, very productive. And of course, that's what we want, right? Because Boost has to become the new standard for giveaways in Web 2. And what we saw in Web 3, and why Alphabot became the standard in Web 3, is because all the big dogs, right? All the big shots, all the big creators, they're all using it, right? And when you have that sort of sets the standard, and then everyone else will use it too. So that's very much our strategy in Web 2 as well, where we start working with these big guys, and we have many more coming up here in the pipeline. And it's double sided. Where on the one end we set the sort of the standard, but then we also onboard a massive amount of users in Web 2.
That's sick, man. I think a lot of people don't see what goes on behind the scenes. I want to like dive a little bit into that because a lot of people is like, oh, they did a massive partnership with Simon. Like that's cool. What's next? Like they're looking for the next like what's coming up. Like how long did that process even take?
That was a quite a long time, over a month of back and forth. I would say,
Yeah.
if not more than that. And at one point we were like, hey, is this actually going to happen? But fortunately it did. And yeah, and once you have the first ones, it goes a lot easier because now we've worked with the Sidemen. We've got a very strong case study with them, and with that we were able to already onboard some other creators like Noah Schnapp from Stranger Things, which also was in partnership with Amazon. They basically co-launched a brand. So getting some amazing traction and working with literally some of the biggest celebrities, but also companies, the corporates there. And that's fantastic.
That's crazy, man. I think you guys are the one company that's successfully tapped into that Web2 market and at a very fast pace compared to, like how it's really done.
Yeah, well, and we're just getting started, brother.
Yeah. I bet there's so much more coming, man. I'm really excited. What's the biggest issues that you guys have faced over the last, like just through every company that you've built?
I would say the biggest issue that I'll use sort of our more recent examples. So I'd say the biggest issues that we have faced at Alphabot or Boost is priorities, right? So being able to actually prioritize what to build next. That's very difficult because if you have, especially like for us, we listen to a lot of user feedback, and if you have 20 people telling you, oh, I want this or I want that, or scale that up to in the hundreds of people, you're gonna have to prioritize at some point. And what feature is more important now? Well, the market might change in a couple of weeks, so is this still relevant? So prioritizing is very important and is something we've learned to do better and better as time goes. But I would say that is like one of the biggest challenges that we've had.
So you would say prioritizing products.
Prioritizing like what to do next, what
next?
features, right?
Yeah.
What to build, what to focus on. Obviously, we have a sort of baseline. Okay, like here's a roadmap of what's happening in terms of marketing, in terms of product development. But ultimately, I can go think of 10 amazing features that we should build, but we have to validate them first, and the best way to validate that is through user feedback, right?
Yeah.
So it's a lengthy process. It takes time, but it does pay off.
It needs to be done. Somebody has to do it.
Yeah, and listen, that's how we got where we are today. A lot of the features we built is just straight up from user feedback, right? And just identifying problems, like people saying like, hey, for example, I'd say like 2023, that was, or like 2023, late 2022, people were winning too many whitelist spots. And you're like, yo, that's a problem. Yeah. That's a problem, because how are you going to keep track of how what spots you have today, what's minting today, what time is it minting, what wallet address did I have whitelisted? And we identified that, and we're like, okay, let's solve that. And that's when we came out with the calendar, with the mint reminders, and then you could add multiple wallets into your account. And you could basically have, the bot would remind you and let you know, like, hey, this is minting today at this time. Here's your whitelisted wallet address, right? So it's really looking at, okay, what sort of problems are there to solve, and then coming up with solutions for it. But yeah, to answer your question, I'd say the prioritizing of what to focus on, what to work on, is probably the biggest challenge. And that kind of goes for, pretty much every business, right? Probably also for yourself, right?
Yeah.
Like if you wake up and you're like, okay, I know here's where I want to get to, right? You sort of probably have a grand vision as well. And how do you get there, right? What are the next steps?
There's so many small steps.
Yeah.
There's so many things.
And figuring them out, and then also prioritizing them. That's the trick.
Yeah. I was just talking with Mickey about this, actually. And I asked him the same question. I was like, hey, Mickey, this is more of a personal question, but how do you find what to actually work on? He told me that he just works things backwards, which I think is a smart way to approach it. But for you guys, it's slightly different because you guys have a product. So there's always like outside noise coming in. It's like, oh, we need this, we need that, we need this.
Yeah.
So I can see how prioritization would probably be become a bit of a bottleneck in a way.
Yeah, for sure. And then also, feedback is very powerful, but filtering out good feedback and constructive feedback is also difficult because people sometimes, get emotional, or people sometimes, might voice their concern in a specific way, especially if it's online, right? People might not be happy with something, but they might exaggerate it. So it comes across as almost like hate. But sort of figuring out like, hey, what is constructive feedback? What can we use? Is also a challenge, right? That sort of ties into that. Yeah.
I want to understand, because you guys have done some big partnerships in the Web2 world. How are they different from the Web3 world? Like, is there any big difference that you've noticed?
Dude, the beautiful part is it's super similar. Like, really the only difference is like what they're giving away, right? They're not giving away NFT whitelist or tokens or, allocations to some crypto project. It's really just, that's the main difference. They're giving away products, they're giving away coupons, discount codes, experiences, right? But at the end of the day, it's very much similar. It's a creator giving something away to their community, right? Either as a reward or as an incentive to get engagement. And the same thing for brands, where the brands want exposure, they want brand awareness, and they want engagement. And they use a platform like ours to get that, right? Yeah. So it's very, very much similar.
I thought the process would be slightly different, but I guess business is the same everywhere at the end of the day.
Well, yeah, but if you think about it, engagement is engagement. Yeah. Like it's not going to change that much, right? And that's why our business is so scalable. It's giveaways, right? If we were a questing platform, then it would be very different, right? Yeah. Because you don't see Mr. Beast, you don't see Hilton, or whatever, Kaizenat or Speed, or all these creators. You don't see them hosting questing. You see them hosting giveaways, right? Yeah. So that's the beautiful part about what we're doing here, is we're not really changing behaviors. We're just coming in with like a much, much better solution.
I want to change it up a little bit, and I want to understand, is there something that like motivates you a lot to like reach success?
Is there something that motivates me?
Like, what's the motivation behind like trying to reach success for you?
Interesting question. Never really thought about that so much. It's just this drive inside of me where I feel like we have to succeed, right? And now there's people relying on us, right? There's people who work for us, people who want their paycheck at the end of the month. So I would feel like it started as like a commitment to myself, or like, hey, I want to do great things. I want to build great products and solve problems and create value in the process. But now it's grown to so much more, where there's people relying on you, there's people looking up, and people who need us, right? So I'd say, yeah, that it began out as more like a self thing, but now it's grown to so much more.
I see that pattern a lot with a lot of entrepreneurs, where it's like, at first it's always something about something selfish. I want to make money.
Yeah.
But then at a certain point, it's like, okay, I made money. What now? So It's like, I got to take care of the people that help me make this money, and just the people that are surrounding you.
Well, yeah, for sure. And we didn't really get into Alphabot because we wanted money. It was more so like, hey, we all of us as co-founders, we had quite a bit of success already in crypto and then in NFTs. I mean, that time was wild. So it wasn't really from that point. It was more so like, hey, there's a problem, no one's solving it, so I guess we'll solve it, right? Like, we kind of have to.
Yeah.
For ourselves. And then it just grows into something organic, right? And at the end of the day, it very much suits my mindset as well, as an entrepreneur coming from an entrepreneurial family. It's what I do. I guess that's why I'm here on this world, man.
You solve problems. I think, man, it's very similar that the best founders always have something for solving problems.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's the biggest trait that I've noticed make people really successful, is they have a drive to solve certain problems. And at one point, it's more than just money. It's about taking care of the people around you and just making cool products. I think that's really it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you do, of course, have to think about money in some
Everybody
occasions.
has to eat, man.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's also, that's a driver of some of the decisions we made at Alphabot specifically. It's like, hey, how are we actually going to monetize this? Because, we offered the product for free for 6 months, and at one point the hosting bills were racking up, and we're like, hey, we need to start monetizing this thing, and actually expand the team. And, now we're 25 people or more already across Alphabot and Boost. So yeah, we were looking at, okay, how do we monetize this thing? And, we went down a few different paths, and subscriptions was the most sort of long-term sustainable. We're like, hey, we want to keep running this platform for, well, however long we can. And the most powerful and the most sustainable way is subscriptions, right? Instead of like, a one Ethereum NFT.
It's not sustainable.
Yeah.
I've talked about this with other founders, and NFTs are a very interesting business model. Because you just get like a one-time big cash,
Yeah.
injection.
But you can't rely on royalties anymore.
No. So what do you do then?
Yeah,
That's the question.
exactly. That's the rough part. So and then it kind of becomes into a seasonal membership, right? It's like,
Yeah.
hey, are you going to launch another collection?
Yeah.
Well, that's also not fair for the people that bought or minted, right? So
Yeah.
yeah,
I want to understand, because just being in crypto and Web3, like the market, one, it changes every week, and two, it's like it has so many up and downs. At what point do you start seeing some sort of success? Was there like a big catalyst at any of these like big peaks that was like, okay, like things are starting to change now?
in terms of like personal, or you mean business?
I guess I want to understand a little bit of both.
Okay. I'd say personal, I was like, wow, this is something when I started minting NFTs, like free mints that all of a sudden were worth like $50,000. Or that, from my mutant land, I got a coda, which is like, that's like just like free, like ridiculous amounts of money, right? And when that happened, I was like, okay, like this is something else, right? And yeah, so sort of that already set us up all for, a different base layer of like, okay, like we're all good, right? We're taken care of. There's not really that sort of need to focus on, making money. Let's focus on creating value first, and then figure out how we actually monetize it later on. So that's, I'd say early on in NFTs, when all of a sudden like NFT, like whitelists were going, crazy. That's when I was like, okay, this has a lot of potential. And of course, from a trading POV. And then from a business POV, it was really when we launched our so when we created AlphaBot, it was just for Apelist. And actually it started at Doodles before. So it was Doodles Alpha Bot. This is what really started. And it was really just a very simple bot where you click a button and then you're entered in a giveaway, and it spits out the results in the chat. So Billy the Ape, our CTO and co-founder, he built that first for Doodles. And then we connected when we launched our NFT, the Apelist NFT, because we needed giveaways which had NFT and Discord requirements. And that wasn't possible, right? So we asked Premint. Premint at the time was the biggest. And we asked them, like, hey, can you please add the ability to enable both requirements? And they were like, no, we can't do it. And we offered to pay them, and, well, they didn't want to help us. So, yeah, so the reason why we started to work with Billy and why we, collaborated together to build AlphaBot is because, well, Premint did not want to solve our problem.
That's insane.
Yeah. So that's really just how it started there. And, when we started to use it ourselves, other people started approaching us, other communities, and then, other great communities like Doodles Alpha and, some very, very notable names in the space started using it. And all of a sudden we were just growing so rapidly. And we had this Discord server where you could open a ticket and request access. And when we saw these tickets just coming in, like tens and tens of new tickets a day of like new creators wanting to use our, communities and creators wanting to use our tool, we were like, oh, wow, like we built something here, right? Like this is something that people want, and this is great. And then we open up all kinds of channels for, feature suggestions and feedback. So yeah, that's really when we noticed, like, okay, this is picking up steam. And just like with the Ape List as well, when we launched the Ape List, it was really just a server with Collabland in it and a bunch of channels, and we were just sort of figuring things out as we went, right? And then when like hundreds of new apes were joining like every week, we were like, oh, okay, we have to add some structure here, right? Yep. And we definitely found a great problem that we're solving here. So that's what I love talking about as well to other entrepreneurs and to other founders, especially if they're just starting out. It's really just, find a problem to solve and be sort of aware of problems in the first place, right? Because you might just think like, this just happened, how annoying, and move on from it. But if you actually stand still and think about it, it's like, hey, what actually is happening here? and is this a problem? Identify the problem, then figure out, are other people experiencing this problem? Is it worth even solving this problem, right? And then identifying a solution for it, but then also testing it as soon as possible. Because you can talk about something for a very long time, but you just got to go out and test it, build an MVP and try it out.
I see this a lot when there's like companies coming into the space, like they raise, launch their token, and then they potentially launch the product. I think they skip that part of like, do people actually even need this?
Yeah.
Let's test out the waters. Then we fundraise, then we launch TG and the product and all these things.
Right. Well, I think the token chart will speak for itself. But that's why, and I'm not here to throw shade on any tokens. Of course, I'm a bag holder myself, or investor, I should say. No, so listen, that's specifically why we went down that route, and that's why we didn't want to launch an NFT to monetize the platform, because all of a sudden then, you have a chart. You have to support that chart, and you have to make sure that your holders are happy, right? So looking at that, we were like, okay, let's set up the platform, get the users, dominate the space, and dominate the Web3 space already for a while when it comes to giveaways, and only then look at, okay, how do we make this more fun? How do we make this more engaging? How do we gamify the experience? And that's where we arrived at the token. And on day one, we're going to have significant utility, and that's of course the luxurious position that we're in now. It's like, hey, we have a platform that is used by millions every month, and we can actually integrate deep token utility there, which will be very powerful, I hope.
Yeah, I think you guys have always taken the right playbook. That's what I like about seeing how Boost has grown so far. You guys have built ApeList, AlphaBot, now Boost. A lot of founders struggle to build one company. Why do you think you guys have succeeded at building these three?
Great question. Why have we succeeded? It's all because of great people, man. We could not have done this without the amazing team around us. And I mean, some of the people that we work with have been with us since day one. I mean, think of people like Sally, who, if you work labs, you probably know Sally. Think of
100%.
Think of Chuck. Think of Greb. I mean, some of these people have been with us since day one, right? And also on our support team, people like Daniel. There's so many great people that have been with us for years at this point. And because of them, we're actually able to keep expanding, right? Because we all hold it down together. We all make sure that operations are running, and people are happy, and collabs keep going, and raffles keep running. So yeah, I'd say that is the key driver behind why we keep being able to expand, and also just the work ethic. That's one thing in Web3 that I'm sure you see as well. And when I compare my previous Web2 experience and now Web3, it's when you're in this space, you're always on, right? Yeah. Every waking hour, I'm either working or thinking about work, right? Yeah. And that's the beauty of Web3, where a lot of people just have that much energy, and you're all working towards a common goal, and it's very exciting, and that's what sort of keeps everyone motivated and excited.
Yeah, it feels like a community, man. I don't think there's many places where, when I talk to other agency owners, there's never any form of hatred or any form of I want to make sure to crush you. It's competition, right? So you want to make sure to crush everybody, but it's always on a friendly level.
Yeah.
And I think that's the beautiful thing about Web3, where it's everybody's friendly, everybody wants to sort of support each other. And I think
for sure,
when you're able to build a team around what you're doing that actually believes in the vision, that's when really big growth is unlocked.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is also, personally, one of my challenges that I have to go through being an entrepreneur is delegating, letting things go.
Yeah.
Very difficult, very difficult. But when you find great people, you have to give them the freedom to do what they're good at. And that also comes down to, how you manage those people. And, we very much believe in giving, anyone who works with us works fully free, as in total freedom over when they work, how they work. We all just set the goals together, and you have the full support of us whenever you need it, But at the end of the day, you decide, you know, when you work and how you sort of accomplish those goals.
Yeah, I think that's how it should be. At least in Web3. In Web2 is a little bit different, but
Yeah, I
I
was
think
about
in
to say,
Web3
Web two, it's very different.
completely
Yeah.
different. In Web3, I do feel as if like there's a goal that's set. As long as we're working towards that goal, whether you're
Yeah.
doing it at 3 a.m. or 9 a.m., that's up to you. But as long as the goal is achieved, then we're as long as we get closer to the mission, that's what we want. What would you say that you would change, if anything, that like if you were to start 5 years ago, would you change anything that you've done?
Buy more Bitcoin. Yeah. Would I change anything? Do you mean as in like if crypto was like also 5 years younger?
Yeah, I mean, like,
as in that way.
yeah, like if you were to, like, would you stay in Web 2? Would you start Alphabot earlier? Like, is there anything, or hire earlier? Maybe, because I know that's been something you touched upon.
No, yeah, I would definitely hire earlier. I mean, you know, Alphabet has been a thing now for 3 years. We had our anniversary in I believe it was 11 April, if I'm correct. So yeah, 3 years. Definitely hire people sooner, scale sooner, and yeah, and I mean, I think I wouldn't really change anything. I don't really have any regrets, and maybe this is just the way I look at life personally. But I sort of see everything as a lesson, and even if things go wrong, I try to learn from it. And I'm grateful for my failures. As I also noticed that, you know, say if you have a mentor or an advisor or you know, perhaps your parents, if they tell you something, you might hear it and just be like, oh yeah, sure, right? You might not even take it as a lesson. And when you experience something firsthand, it's much more powerful, and you will actually learn from it, right?
Yeah.
So I think I wouldn't really change much. Sure, if it was, you know, 5 years ago, well, 5 years is 2019. Yeah, I probably would have bought some more crypto. But besides that, I'd still probably end up in the same spot here. You know, solving problems and solving problems and building products around those.
Yeah, I think the lessons that you learn along the way is like what kind of like leads you to where you are today. So yeah, I love the fact that you wouldn't change anything about what you've done, because maybe things wouldn't be the same. You know, maybe things would change.
Exactly.
So it's always like a what if.
Yeah, and dude, have I made mistakes? For sure.
Yeah.
Lots, you know. But again, I try to learn from those, and I definitely could have done some things differently. But at the end of the day, that all turns into a lesson, and I take that forward now, and I learn from it, and I try to improve.
Yeah, I love that, man. Before we have like probably another 10-15 minutes, I want to switch up the topic a little bit, and I want to understand if you like, do you believe that the only way crypto succeeds is if we tap into the Web 2 world?
Yeah. I mean, right now we're just circulating sort of capital between the same group of people. Granted, is quite a few people in Web3 and crypto, but we need to onboard more people. And I think the way that we're going to onboard new users in Web2 is through consumer applications. And the only way to actually do that is through deeply embedded token utility that is fully abstracted. And that's exactly what we're doing here, which is account abstraction, gas sponsorship, and then a deeply integrated token utility. So you're just tapping, you know, on buttons, you're interacting with features because you want to as a user, and that just happens to trigger blockchain transactions on the back end. Right? And of course, gaming is a very powerful example of this, but technically any, you know, consumer app could potentially integrate, you know, sort of gamify utility in that sense.
Yeah, I think over the last couple of years we have just been like, just it's the same money's just being circled around, like it's just being like literally just passed around people, and I think, yeah, I mean, I don't see it. I don't see Web3 succeeding any other way than onboarding money from the real world, like Web2 world.
The real world.
Yeah, if we want to call it that, right? Like I think we live in a fantasy sometimes. Money's made left and right. Yeah. People make people's salaries in a matter of seconds.
Yeah.
It's I don't know. I think it's fantasy world.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes, especially when you see these crazy stories on Twitter, you know, some kid
The
making
P&Ls.
20 bandos, right? It's yeah. When you see things like that pass by, you're like, yeah, this is a simulation or like a Netflix show. Yeah,
Yeah. Black Mirror.
exactly. Yeah, no, but you know, and I think there as well is that it's a different type of token buyer and holder as well, right? Like
Yeah.
these Web2 people, they're not going to be buying thousands of dollars worth of a token to speculate, right? They're buying the token because they want to use it or because it gives them access to something. And I think that will shift, that's going to shift sort of the sort of people that upcoming tokens will target. But then also it changes, you know, how people are buying and how people are using the token.
Yeah. How do you see the Web3 space bridging to Web2? Do you think it's mainly those consumer apps you mentioned?
Yeah, yeah, consumer apps, anything consumer facing, which is a lot. Anything consumer facing that includes games, right?
Yeah.
I probably see a lot more in finance as well. You know, lending, a lot more in terms of payment processing, making that easier as well for people to actually transact worldwide. Still now, when I transact between my USD or euro or for example here in Dubai dirham accounts, I'm still paying crazy fees.
Yeah.
And yes, sure, I could swap it into crypto, but then that on ramp I'm paying fees as well, right? So there have to be better ways for that, and I think blockchain is the way for that. And in terms of record keeping, I cannot wait to see more governments actually use blockchain as sort of public ledgers. Like the fact that we still have offices in some countries in Europe. There's still offices with like physical paperwork of like who owns what. I mean, that's ridiculous, right? It should already be on chain. So I cannot wait to see more of that. But yeah, of course, my focus and what I love most is consumer apps. It's having blockchain powered apps in the hands of the daily consumer. And I think that's very exciting because
Yeah.
you can go very far with that.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of growth potential. And I think we need one big game, one big company. We need a Nike that comes out of Web3 that showcases that this is more than just fluff and numbers on a screen.
Yeah.
There's like something tangible behind it. How long do you think that process will take?
Well, we have some things coming up now.
There we go, boost.
No, yeah, of course, we're not a Web2 giant, so it wouldn't give the same validation. But, it could be in the next couple of years, I would say. And of course, we're sort of leading the march into this Web2 consumer space where, hey, you could actually build a product that, hundreds of thousands and very soon millions of consumers in Web2 will use, and then actually have them interact with a token, right?
Yep.
And I think we'll see a lot more of that. I think we need some good examples because people are very much just focused on like, hey, what is working, right? People are chasing metas, and we haven't quite seen a consumer crypto meta yet, right?
Yeah.
I think once people see success and see other people succeeding, we'll see that as well. Just like with Alphabot, after we started growing so fast, we saw so many different raffle tools pop up, right? So people will just replicate what others are doing and try to build in a similar space. So I think once we see some consumer crypto success, we'll see a lot more, and that's great. That's good, right? Competition is good. And more people building towards that common goal is fantastic. We need more people in the space.
Yeah. I think competition is very healthy. Some people might look at it as a bad thing, but I think the game is born without competition, man. Like there's nobody to compete with. Like what do you do?
Yeah, exactly.
Before we wrap it up, I want to ask you two last questions. One of them being, what is the biggest mistake you see most founders make in Web3?
Conceptualizing too much. So thinking about an idea for so long, talking about that idea, and I don't know the exact sort of psychology behind it, but when you talk about an idea, you feel some sort of
Dopamine?
Yeah, you feel some sort of satisfaction from that already, even though you haven't done anything about it. You're just talking about it. So yeah, I'd say that is like the biggest pitfall for new founders or founders that are trying to start something. Is that just conceptualizing for too long? Just get out there, man. And this is something I learned very early on. I remember one of my favorite books, The Lean Startup. It's really all just about getting the sort of easiest MVP out there and just test it, right? And we've done that with a lot of new features that we launch as well, like the raids product, for example, that we launched, where it's like automatic engagement through raids, right? We just tested that manually, where it's like, hey, let's go see if this actually works. Let's see if people actually want this, and then actually turn that into development. So yeah, that's like the biggest sort of advice I would give to new founders is like, just get out there and test it. And even if that means testing a manual version too, right? If you're thinking this grand product, maybe there's a way you can test it manually just to validate, like, hey, do people actually need this? And is it valuable?
Yeah, I think partially the issue to that is that VCs and consumers are just willing to throw money at anything.
Yeah.
Especially ideas that sound interesting.
Yeah. Maybe in Web3, it's not great to get actual traction, and this is one of the biggest surprises that I see in VC meetings, or talking to other institutional players in this crypto space, is when I tell them about our profitability and our traction. They're always very surprised. They're like, "Oh wow, you guys are actually
money?
Generating revenue." Yeah,
That's real. I didn't know that worked like that.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I would definitely say, test it. You don't have to talk to everyone about it, but you have to try it.
Yeah, you gotta, put some work behind it rather than just say it. I like that.
Exactly.
Last question I want to ask: if you could change something about Web3, what would it be?
If I could change something about Web3, anything specific in terms of like what area, or
just like the overall industry, like if there was something that you could just like, you had a magic wand, you could just wave it around, just make the industry so much better, like what would that one thing be?
Dude, I would love more accountability for bad actors in the space. I'm sure having the sort of being able to be anonymous in the space is good, and it can serve a purpose, but in my opinion, there's too many bad actors in the space, and this is something that we've seen a lot from Alphabot. We have basically a dedicated team member whose sole job it is to just weed out bad actors on the platform, and it is ridiculous what you'll see. And then these people will try to guilt trip you. They'll try to work their way in, and there's so many bad actors in the space, and yeah. So if there's something I could change about crypto, it's somehow, I don't know how, otherwise I would, this is a problem, so maybe someone can build a solution for it. Maybe we need a trust pilot for crypto or something. I guess Ethos started working on that, which is good. But we need more accountability in the space, and
I agree.
Also as a way, like, hey, let's highlight who has done bad, but also who's done good, because there's so many great builders in the space who perhaps haven't gotten the recognition yet, right? So I think that's what I would change about the space, and maybe that sounds like a problem to someone, and they can build a solution for it, and I'd happily check it out.
Man. Yeah, I fully agree with you. I think there's a lot of bad actors that don't have the right mindset. They're ready to make a quick buck. It's not gonna do well for the space at all.
When I vet sort of new partners, the first thing I do is search their username and then Zach XBT, just to see like, hey, is there a connection? Yeah.
Did something come up here? That's awesome, man. Well, brother, it was really good having you on. I'm excited for what you guys are doing. I think you guys are, like I said earlier, like one of the teams that's actually building to the Web2 masses, because that's really where the money and how we continue to succeed. And yeah, man, thank you for coming on.
Dude, thanks for having me, and very excited about what's coming next. We have some big things coming up here, and the validation we just saw in Web 2, along with some of the experience and some of the tech that we have, makes us very excited about it. Right, we dominate the Web 3 space, and what we've just seen lets us to believe we can do the same in Web 2. So
it's just beginning, man.
Exactly. Very excited. Well, thanks for having me. And it was great chatting.
No, likewise, man. Thank you.
Awesome.
All right. Good?
Cool.
Awesome, man.
Love it, man. That's like completely different again